The Senate will come to order. All right, members, let's get this show back on the road. The next order of business is number 85 on general orders, Senate File 3463, Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is the Capital Investment Committee bill for 2020. But before we get into it, I'm going to just simply go through the bill, but I've got some, I think, 3 amendments of a technical nature that I think we're going to offer, and I think Senator Jasinski is going to offer the first one.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Just Senator Senjum. Senator Pappas, for what reason do you rise?
I'm
Senator
sorry, Mr. President, Senator Senjum, I was told that we weren't going to be doing amendments at this point,
Yep.
and I agreed to hold off on my amendment.
Okay.
Senator Senjum, let's start with why don't you start by going through the spreadsheet and what's in the bill, and we will pause on amendments for the time being.
Sure. Thank you, Mr.
Senjum.
President. Members, and that's fine. We can do those as we get into them. These were housekeeping amendments, largely from MMB. So, again, Mr. President, members, the 2020 Capital Investment Bill, Senate File 3463. It's a bill that was largely created around the idea that given the times with respect to the downturn and unemployment and all those issues related to it, that we put together a bill that was largely around the idea of job intensity. I describe it as moving dirt, pouring concrete, putting up structural elements, putting up drywall, installing utilities, making those kind of things work within the framework of our society. And as a result, then, if you do that, things ripple and ripple and ripple, not only from the standpoint of job creation, but from the standpoint of the money that turns around. Mr. Chair and members, this is a $998 million bill. It is a composite, if you will, of looking at, frankly, over 500 projects within the request list this year and amounting to over $5 billion. So a lot of interest out there with respect to seeking capital investment funding. Obviously, at 998, we're funding about a fifth of those requests, and probably also about a fifth of the projects with respect to this bill. I haven't counted them. I'm going to guess it's probably about 100 projects. Again, Senate File 3463 is, I started to say it was a 998 bill, and it is with respect to general obligation bonds. But beyond that, it does have trunk highway bonds. So the bill in its totality is $1.4 billion, I'm sorry, $1.4 billion, 998 of general obligation bonds, and $400 million of trunk highway bonds. With respect to the bill, $178 million of those general obligation bonds are dedicated to higher education, $85 million to natural resources. That's about 8.5%, by the way. Transportation, again, it's large on transportation. $688 million of those $1.4 billion are dedicated to transportation. There we have $288 million of general obligation bonds and $400 million of trunk highway bonds. The deed section, Department of Economic Development, is 10% of the bill, accounts for $105 million. The Public Facilities Authority, again, sewer, water, along with transportation and the Public Facilities Authority, the sewer and water element of the bill, we've got major, major money, perhaps record-breaking money with respect to a bonding bill. Here we're talking about $203 million. And I think we all know, if you've been on any bonding trips at all, or frankly, you don't even have to go on bonding trips to know that the sewer and water infrastructure across our state of Minnesota has great needs, and as a result, there's great demands on the bonding bill. So those are the major elements of the bill with respect to money. Beyond that, there's some policy provisions which I'll go through, but maybe I'll simply go through the spreadsheet, and I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible without sacrificing the content from the standpoint of what might be interesting. Again, I talked about higher education, the University of Minnesota, and the Minnesota State University system. They split, if you will, $85 million equally divided, $170 million in total, equally divided, 85 apiece. Within the framework, though, of the University of Minnesota, we have a $29 million child development building. So here we have then $55 million worth of HEAPR, asset preservation, in other words, from a university perspective, from a higher education's perspective, and $85 million then also of HEAPR within the Minnesota State University system. There are no new buildings within this bill for the Minnesota State University system. It seemed like, to the extent as we put the bill together, that the emphasis this year ought to be on HEAPR and try to get that as high as we can. Of course, there's lots of pressures on any bonding bill, but we've got $85 million here. And then we move on to Department of Natural Resources. Again, asset preservation at about $18 million, flood hazards mitigation at $18 million, dam safety repair at $19 million, a variety of other listed entities there, trails, parks, and so on and so forth. Lake Vermilion's on there at $5.8 million. Riverbank stabilization in Mankato is a big one. I think we noticed down there, the Minnesota River. And frankly, even the rivers of the northwest Minnesota, as we traveled around this state last fall, were, if you will, full of water, and water causing a lot of erosion along the stream banks. And so we've got some stream bank stabilization there in Mankato, and I think going forward we're going to see a lot more of that in the bonding bill. Pollution Control Agency, a couple of projects there with respect to waste, hazardous waste, otherwise solid waste, both in Clay County and the Scott County area, household hazardous waste facility there. Local government with respect to wetland replacement program. I mentioned, Mr. Chair, that members, there was a lot of money in here on transportation. You cannot do a transportation bill or put that much money in transportation lest you have wetland replacement. In many cases, installing a new road or even remodeling a new road, so to speak, will involve going through wetlands, and you have to replace those. And so there's $18 million here for wetland replacement. We've got some in the RIM program, $1 million. Another one here in the agricultural area, and this is a result of frankly touring the Department of Health laboratory last fall, hearing about its shortfalls with respect to its ability to contain what they work with over there, and in some cases those microorganisms, those viruses and so on, are fairly contagious. They're doing a lot of work, certainly with COVID over there at this point. So $20 million is dedicated to the Department of Health to upgrade their laboratory systems, provide for better biocontainment, which is certainly important as we face what we're facing today. Minnesota Zoo asset preservation, $1 million. Administration, this thing we call CAPRA is basically asset preservation of the buildings which are administrated by the Department of Administration. We've got some money there. There's a Mayo Memorial proposal here on the state capitol grounds, $250,000. The Amateur Sports Commission has some asset management and a new maintenance facility out there at $2.5 million. Military affairs, be it Rosemont, be it Marshall, Fergus Falls, or Camp Ripley, there's money there. I will note, particularly with Camp Ripley, we're talking up there about a new military museum. The current museum is in the flight path of frankly, their airplanes, and they need to move that. And with that planned move, there's been made a decision that we make a more appropriate medical museum on Highway 371, much more available to the public from the standpoint of perception. Many people would be a little intimidated driving into Camp Ripley, and so there's $13 million there for that particular project. Moving on to public safety, we've got a regional public safety facility in Virginia here noted. Then we get into transportation, local bridge The replacement, the rehab, $25 million. Local road improvement program, $80 million. And again, going through the bill, a lot of other things here related to both ports. There's one here that I want to note in particular because this is a new program to the bonding bill, and that's Township Road Improvement Program, $8 million there. If you happen to represent your township, you don't have to go to too many meetings to find out that taking care of township roads is getting increasingly difficult for those town boards and with respect to money, and they don't ask for a lot, but to them a new culvert is a big deal, and this will help them a lot. Again, moving through and down there, I don't know if I need to mention all of those various projects that relate to road construction. I will note with particular the city of Henderson, which basically, if you will, floods out with the exception of one access road, maybe 1 month out of a year, depending on floods, but it's been fairly frequent. So there's a project here to both elevate Highway 93 and elevate County Road 6 at Henderson to give them better access to the community during these high water points within the seasons. And then again, going down, more transportation on and on and on. The Thief River Falls Airport, I will note that at $6,400,000. Also, I will note that the Rochester Airport, going up the list a little bit more, at $11.4 billion. Two airport projects which are important to our state from the standpoint of economic development. The work that's done in Fergus Falls is, and they have a lot of product going in and out of Fergus Falls, as do Rochester, or does Rochester, from the standpoint of medical specimens. So that airport improvement is very, very important. Going on then to page 3, we've got the Met Council inflow and infiltration, the grant program at $5 million, I'm sorry. Regional parks, $4 million. I need my other glasses, Mr. Chair or Mr. President. Human services, asset preservation. I'm just going to maybe move forward. Noting within human services, though, an emphasis once again on mental health and making sure that we have facilities around the state to accommodate mental health needs, which again, if they weren't evident before COVID, they're even more evident now, and the needs are ever more increasing. Veterans Affairs, asset preservation, greenhouse in Fergus Falls for people to work within and to occupy their time in, an entity of that particular veterans home. Corrections, asset management at $15,000. Our prisons get a lot of intense use, of course. And then a long-awaited interior perimeter fence in St. Cloud. There's a feeling that the current brick wall, if you will, stone wall, is not absolutely secure, and so they want to put a fence within inside the brick wall to make that facility more secure. Moving on to the deed section, again, a variety of projects. The Transportation Economic Development Program and the BDPI program, $12 million for that, $1.5 million for the TED program, and then a list of other projects there for you to note. I want to note the city of Becker because there will be an amendment on this to clean up some language, but this has to do with the installation of the utilities going to a business park that will occupy a new Google facility, which is not only tremendously expensive in terms and a tremendous asset for our states in terms of property tax, but certainly additional employees. Moving down there, St. Cloud has got a $12 million asset release request, at least granted so far, with respect to an athletic facility, and I think the rest is there to read. And then moving on to the back page, again, we get into the theme, if you will, the public facility authority, sewer and water. Again, big number by most standards, at least maybe a record number, $201 million. And here we get into all the sewer and water infrastructure of our state, along with a number of specified projects that relate to sewer and water throughout the state of Minnesota. Perhaps the most expensive one here is the city of Orinoco the largest unsewered city within the state of Minnesota, $24 million. The rest of them are upgrades. And again, if I didn't mention it earlier, by virtue of at least old and decrepit facilities and new element or effluent standards with respect to sewer and water, we're just seeing a lot of that need across Minnesota. Housing is listed here, but housing is actually being handled outside of the bonding committee this year. We've got both a House and a Senate group working on that. They will come forward with the housing proposal, again, outside of this. The Minnesota Historical Society, some money there for asset preservation. And then we get into the financial aspects of the bill. And just to note, for instance, on line 176, the cost of the general obligation bonds the first year is $3.7 million, ramping up in 22 and 23 to $30 million. Likewise for the trunk highway bonds in next year, this year rather, if adopted, this bill would cost $4.6 million for trunk highway bonds, ramping up to $51 million in years going forward. So, Mr. Chair and members, that's the essence of the bill. Basically, well, let me just add, there's other aspects as well that have to do with Article 2 in terms of policy provisions. I want to offer those. They're, again, in Article 2. And they largely surround, well, certainly a variety of issues. There's the Township Road Improvement Program is noted in there with respect to some specific procedures for granting that money. That's the first one in Section 2, rather. And as we get into Section 3 through 10, attending, I need my other pair of glasses, Mr. Chair. Amending the riders, rather, from basically earlier bonding bills, I'm sorry. And then we look at the regional parks changing. There's just a variety of these kind of technical changes that are necessary. There's one I might note that Senator Cohen's particularly interested in, and that's the Minnesota Museum of American Art. There's been some issues there and some previous bond money, and to make that money work, we've made some provisions within this bill, some issues with SHPO and historic tax credits, and I think we've got that straightened out for them so we can go forward and fully develop that facility. The National Legal Center is asking for an extension to a previous bonding bill that was passed going into 2024. And then the last one I just want to mention, Section 13, perhaps of particular interest and importance, is a policy provision dealing with the transportation selection process, working to make it more transparent. It's something that Senator Newman's been working on for some time. And Mr. Chair, and pardon me, Mr. President, that is the essence of the bill. Now, it's my understanding that we're going to lay this on the table at this point and come back to it for both amendments and questions and so on and so forth. So I would move, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, rather, to lay Senate File 3463 on the table for further discussion at a later time.
On that motion, all in favor? Members, a motion to lay on the table is not debatable. On that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. No. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Senator Senjum, if you could make a motion to...
Mr. Chair and Mr. President, rather, I would make a motion to reconsider the table and bring this bill back for further discussion.
Senator Senjum, just make a motion to pull Senate File 3463 from the table. Take Senate File 3463 from the table.
Mr. President, I would move to pull Senate File 3463 from the table for purposes of further discussion.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Opposed say no. We'll take a very brief pause. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Further discussion on Senate File 3463, Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Senjum. It seemed to me like this would be a good time for us to discuss the whole issue of bonding bills now instead of taking a recess. So I appreciate the courtesy of letting us do that now. And it's just to clarify something publicly, it's my understanding that we might lay this bill on the table again, take up other bills, continue negotiation, but that there would be a later time yet today in which amendments would be offered, technical amendments and any other amendments to this Senate file. And will Senator Senjum please yield and confirm that I have that correct?
Senator Senjum will yield. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Senator Pappas, and that is my understanding that we'll do that, and I think and I congratulate or compliment you on using this time wisely to have this colloquy.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's good to see you, Senator Senjum, even though we only live a block apart. And I've offered to go for walks with him 6 feet apart and go visit the 3rd Street Bridge that you're so concerned about in downtown St. Paul. As you walk under it, you don't want it to fall on your head. But maybe you were concerned about my safety in the bridge and not agreeing to walk with me.
Remember, members on the floor, you're not supposed to be looking at each other.
Yeah, I'm looking at you now, Senator. Yeah,
Senator Pappas.
I learned that lesson, right. I have to say that, Mr. President, I'm actually delighted to have a bonding bill. With $5 billion in requests and a huge backlog, it's really, really important in this time, especially given what the virus has done to our economy, that we have a robust bonding bill that provides the kind of jobs that Minnesotans need. Our bonding bills have often been missing in action. I'm thinking of twice, or may have even been 3 times in the last 5 years when we didn't even have a bonding bill. And I'm afraid to say that was largely due to the lack of Republican support, both in the Senate and in the House. And I understand there's still some reluctance in the House to do a bonding bill with the Republicans in the House, that is. So let's just hope that the stars are aligned and it all works out and we can compromise and negotiate and end up with a very robust bonding bill that will produce the kind of jobs that we need. I think that a bonding bill right now really needs to prioritize shovel-ready projects. And I'm not so sure that this bonding bill does because, I think Senator Dibble is going to talk more about the issue with the transportation earmarks, that those aren't necessarily highway projects that are shovel-ready. But what is shovel-ready is HEAPR, our Repair and Replacement Fund, our asset preservation funds, and that's across all of state government, all of higher ed, And those are the ones, all of our state agencies, places like the zoo, the state academies, DNR has huge asset preservation ask, I think like $70 million. And also to talk about where are the highest job producers. And again, I'm going to turn to Senator Dibble. He's queuing up here, I think, to follow me to talk about the important job producers that he's aware of. The other area I would say that's sorely lacking in this bill is the issue of public safety. And that's become very much in the forefront of our minds these days. Science labs, both the Department of Health, Department of Agriculture, as well as our higher ed institution, need state-of-the-art science labs to back up the research that needs to be done. The other area that I would say needs along this public safety line is an emergency operations center. This has been requested by both administrations, I think since 9/11. To have the emergency operations center where it's currently located, I'm not even going to tell you where that is, we really need a new location for that emergency operations center, and I know that should be a high priority of all of us, as well as training centers throughout the state for both our first responders, our firefighters, our police. These are also really important projects. And to keep our people safe, obviously we need clean water and we need wastewater treatment. And although the Senator Senjum's bill does fund the Public Facilities Authority projects, and I commend you for that, what about waste management? What about recycling? What about organics? What about the Superfund site cleanups? Those are not adequately funded in this bill. So, members, I'm glad that we were able to clarify this issue because as the senators who are on the Capital Investment Committee know that I do have an amendment that I want to offer, and I know that there are many members who want a chance to vote for that amendment. Building on what Senator Senjum has done, we may not agree with everything, but there are some good things in that bill and some things that are important to all of us, but it's just not enough. So, members, with those opening comments, I will end my comments for now, and we can go on to the next speaker.
Further discussion on the bill. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Mr. President, members, I'm not sure what to say about this bill exactly. It's hard to respond to this bill because it just doesn't seem to be a very serious effort at really getting anything passed, and certainly not a serious effort at putting Minnesotans to work. So I'm tempted just to save my energy and save my breath, but nevertheless, it is the Senate majority's bill that has been put in front of this body, and so we have to take it somewhat seriously. Mr. President, Senator Senjum, despite the public pronouncements from your leadership that bonding, capital investments are one of the key ways we can stimulate our economy and put people back to work, I'm wondering why you would bring a bill like this to the floor that strongly favors only those districts represented by Republicans and punishes those that are represented by Democratic senators, largely. I call your attention, of course, to the fact that there is not one thin dime for transit in this bill. So how can anyone claim with any credibility that this is even marginally or slightly fair? Not only does it do active harm to the economy and the competitiveness of the metropolitan area, but it directly damages those who are working hard to prosper and advance the lives of themselves and their families. I certainly hope no metro area senator of either party will vote in favor of this bill when it so directly is in contrast to the interests of the people you represent. A recent study showed clearly and unambiguously, and this is not just some sort of leftist study, it comes from the business organizations of the metropolitan area, that the biggest payoff, one of the very biggest payoffs in jobs, both in the short term and the long term, that we can invest in a bonding bill and a capital investment bill is transit. building those transit ways that are so vital in adding to the connectivity and the access that the people of the metropolitan area and also in greater Minnesota have to get to school, to get to work, to get to all the other opportunities. And why is there such a huge benefit? 30% more than a lot of the other things that we talk a lot about in the bonding bill. Well, it's very intuitive, of course, because when you invest in transit, you're not just simply acquiring property or land, which creates almost no jobs, but you're putting those dollars to work on actual construction of mobility facilities, of transit ways. And you're ordering the goods that we need and the services that we need to make transit work. There's a tremendous amount of manufacturing and a complete and total supply chain that goes into building transit. For buses, we have engines, tires, fuel systems, transmissions, axles, brake systems, suspension, windows, doors. You get the idea. For tracks, we have rails, cross ties, signal lights, switches, ballast, power systems, platform infrastructure, etc. So when you fail to invest in transit, these are the kinds of companies in Minnesota that you're hurting all over Minnesota. The Donaldson Company that in Bloomington that manufactures air filters. Airlines, as in braking systems in Arden Hills, the Knott Company. Aluminum Extrusion Company, Network Manufacturing in Rice, Minnesota. Fittings in Chaska, manufactured in Chaska. Fiberglass parts by Carfair Composites in St. Cloud. Hardware in Minneapolis from Allegis Corporation. In Waite Park, hoses and fittings, HVAC and filters, Thermo King in Bloomington, metal fabrication in Cambridge, St. Joseph, Triangle Precision Stamping in Minneapolis, lubrication technologies in Golden Valley, steel fabrication in Bloomington, and the list goes on. And of course, we're very familiar with the manufacturing facilities in St. Cloud and in Crookston for New Flyer, which provides the buses for Metro Transit and provides fantastic buses that are of national reputation. So members, this bill is nothing but a slap in the face to our metropolitan area. And it's turning our backs on those who need to get to their jobs, their school, and other opportunities. Sadly, I am not surprised because so often, time and again, in this chamber, on this floor, we see those who are already powerful become the winners in the legislation that gets passed off this body, and those who struggle just have to fend for themselves. It's par for the course. And I'm sure that the press releases are ready to go on the jillions of dollars that we're putting into transportation and all of that bonding that we're doing in this bill. But the fact is that this bill is chock full of earmarks. Here's the list of earmarks. And so before those press releases get ready to go, the people of Minnesota need to know that, in fact, it's a lot of noise and sound and fury about nothing, because most of these earmarks simply aren't for shovel-ready projects that are ready to go. Members, I'll draw your attention to the Department of Transportation letter that was transmitted. I emailed it, and I have hard copies that were delivered here in the Capitol. And it simply says that earmarked appropriations don't cover the entire cost of the project, meaning other projects will have to be delayed to cover the remaining funding gap. And with falling revenues, it'll be difficult to find the funds necessary to complete many of those earmarked projects. So not only are we going to earmark projects that aren't ready to go, those that are in the project queue will have to wait, because all of a sudden we've got a bunch of dollars locked up in bonding that has to be repaid over 20 years. And so those projects that aren't represented by favored senators just fall further and further behind. In Albert Lea, there's a project for Trunk Highway 65, not shovel-ready. Monticello widening, not shovel-ready. Grade separation in Anoka, not shovel-ready. A Highway 8 project in Chisago, not shovel-ready. Trunk Highway 73 in Cromwell, not shovel-ready. Henderson, Trunk Highway 93 and 169, not shovel-ready. Jenkins and Pine River, Trunk Highway 371, not ready to go. Norwood Young America, US Highway 212, not ready. Olmsted County, County Road 104 interchange, not ready. And I could go on, but I won't. But I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 more just like it. So we're passing a kind of a myth, a fiction off the floor. And before we talk about how much more transparent this earmarking process is, that is just not true. We did a great thing a few years ago. We asked the legislative auditor to analyze how projects are vetted and selected and placed on the STIP, the Surface Transportation Improvement Plan, and they told, and as well as some of the other programs, Corridors for Commerce, the Transportation Economic Development Program, and they rightly found out that it's a little bit hazy. The criteria maybe was a little bit loose, and the process of collaboration wasn't very clear, and the transparency of the criteria that were established for the purposes of selecting projects and placing them on the STIP weren't entirely clear. And so the legislature responded. That was excellent work that we did with Senator Newman, with Senator Senjum, myself. We all agreed, and we passed reforms. And so we have in law the requirement that those projects that go on the Surface Transportation Improvement Plan have established criteria in law. They have to follow those criteria. They cannot deviate. They have to consult with a whole long list of community stakeholders. They have to be transparent about how that collaboration and that consultation occurs, and then they have to publish those projects that go on the list, and the criteria and the weighting of their criteria have to be fully disclosed. Versus a more transparent process where a list kind of shows up out of a back room for a bunch of projects for a bunch of Republican areas that no one's ever heard of, or have a bunch more money that needs to be cobbled together from local sources, or haven't gone through the proper property acquisition. I mean, they're just out of thin air. They come out of a back room. That's not transparency. That's not consultation. That's a political document. It's the exact opposite of what we had chosen to reform a few years ago. So members, if the process that we decided was so terrible and we have to do this, then why is there a provision at the end of this bill that calls for that exact same project selection process and criteria to be utilized for a bunch of other programs that MnDOT has with respect to ports and airports and rail separation and railroad improvements and the various myriad of other things? I mean, why don't we just get rid of those elements of our law and just the legislature just gets to pick every project? I mean, we did great work a few years ago, and we instituted that reform, and now we're actively undermining that, and doing so in a way that puts projects that are ready to go further and further behind. And furthermore, when we bond to the hilt, as we're doing here, however hundreds of millions of dollars Senator Senjum just described, we know that the Highway User Tax Distribution Fund, the Trunk Highway Fund, is under a tremendous amount of pressure because of the crisis and declining revenues. Senator Newman sent out an email to everyone just a few weeks ago saying, read it and weep, and attached an article about the declining revenue. So we're going to get out the credit card and paper over the fact that we have declining revenue, and we're going to leverage that diminishing set of resources to the hilt and try to build a bunch of projects that we're actually not going to be able to build with debt that we're going to then have to spend the next 20 years to pay off with interest. It just doesn't make any fiscal sense. It doesn't make any policy sense. It punishes those who aren't favored by the majority here. It favors those who are, and it just doesn't get people where they need to go. It's not a jobs bill. It's not going to create jobs. It doesn't invest in those kinds of things that actually produce the most number of jobs. Members, I would urge a no vote on this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Next, we have Senator Newman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make some, sort of general remarks regarding the bonding bill that Senator Senchum has put together. And, I know that there are those that are not happy, and I've listened to Senator Pappas both in committee and here again on the floor. And quite honestly, I agree with a lot of what she says. She talks in terms of the need for funding for HEAPR. And of course, she is correct. There is also, in addition to all of the buildings that the colleges and universities own that HEAPR addresses, the last count I saw, the Department of Administration is responsible for, I think it was 6,000 buildings in the state of Minnesota, all paid for in terms of maintenance with bonding money. And the point that I want to make is that when we delve into this capital investment bonding bill, we can't go astray very quickly in terms of, I'll call them local projects, because there are just hundreds and hundreds of local project requests that came to Senator Senchum. We simply are in a position now in the state of Minnesota, we can't afford to entertain those kinds of projects. We have to pay attention to what is the best for the state of Minnesota and what are really truly state assets. And so while I agree that there are a lot of other aspects of a bonding bill that are very important, what I really wanted to do is just stand up and give you some idea of the importance of transportation, because transportation plays such a heavy role in this particular bill. And these are just general comments that I would like that I would ask that you keep in mind while you are entertaining what Senator Senchum has in this bill and why he has these items in the bill. Now, specifically to transportation. First of all, everybody in the state of Minnesota, whether you drive or not, benefits from a good transportation system. Everybody has to eat, everybody wears clothing, everybody has an entertainment value within their lives. And consequently, if we have a good transportation system, everybody benefits. I would maintain that a good transportation system is vital to the economy in the state of Minnesota. We have in Minnesota, in terms of our transportation system, we have roads and bridges, we have freight rail, we have airports, we have the port system. Honestly, state of Minnesota sitting in the middle of the continent, and we have a vibrant port system in Duluth and along the Mississippi River, Red Wing and Winona. And collectively, those transportation pieces contribute an enormous amount of money to the state of Minnesota. The people in the state of Minnesota, irrespective of political affiliation, or if they have no political affiliation, all support the transportation infrastructure through the bonding system. Keep in mind that, for the most part, our transportation system, when it comes to highways and bridges, is supported exclusively almost by a user fee in the form of gas taxes, license tab fees, and sales tax on automobiles. And so when we do get into a bonding bill, there is debt service, which is paid for out of the general fund. And so now we are finally in a point where everybody that is benefiting from the system, in fact, is contributing. I would indicate that there's a very good argument that can be made that a good transportation system benefits the public because of public safety. We hear year after year of a need for grade separation, or rail grade separations, I guess is the right term. And part of the reason for that is when we have trains that plug up our intersections, our first responders, ambulance, fire people, et cetera, they can't get to where they have to get to because of a train blocking the intersections. So I would say that when it comes to police, fire, first responders, air ambulance, all of those pieces also fit into what is necessary for a transportation system from a public safety standpoint. I think a good bonding bill, a robust bonding bill when it comes to transportation is good for the state of Minnesota because we amortize the cost of some very, very expensive projects over a number of years. And by doing so, we can afford to just flatten that out and make it much more affordable. The next reason I would give to think in terms of transportation in your bonding bill is jobs. And when I talk in terms of jobs as a result of a transportation bill, I'm thinking in terms of those jobs that are created directly and those jobs that are created indirectly. The first thing that comes to mind is construction jobs. That is a direct benefit of a robust bonding bill. You have also got engineering, design costs. They fit into the same category. So there's direct benefit if we spend money on transportation through the bonding process. There's also indirect jobs that are created, and that would be in the form of, for instance, companies have to buy equipment. There is motels that are used by construction workers. There's economic development by businesses along a new lane or a new highway project that creates businesses and it creates permanent jobs. So in terms of this current bonding bill, I think probably one of the reasons why Senator Senjum has put so much emphasis on transportation is because of our current economic situation. This COVID thing hit us really, really hard in the economics of the state of Minnesota. And this particular bonding bill strikes me as being sort of a 21st century WPA program, whereby it will immediately jumpstart a whole lot of jobs. I mean, tens of thousands of jobs in the state of Minnesota. And that is what we really need in order to get our economy moving again. And the final thing that I would say is this. Our highways and our bridges are funded through user fees called the Highway User Tax Distribution Fund, HUTDF. That is funded exclusively with your gas taxes, your license tab fees, and your sales tax on your automobiles. All of that money that is generated, and it's about $2 billion a year, it goes directly into HUTDF. MnDOT has estimated that by reason of what has hit us with this COVID pandemic, that HUTDF is going to take a hit to the tune of $400 million. And that $400 million, folks, you will begin to see it and feel it in your transportation system, whereby roads and bridges are not going to be maintained as they should because the funds are not flowing into HUTDF as they had been in the past. And for the first time since I've been involved in transportation, it's the first time I've really seen HUTDF being threatened with reductions from folks who are not driving as much and not driving or not buying new cars. As a matter of fact, I think that people are now driving their automobiles longer just because of the economic stress. Final thing I want to say is this, Senator Dibble mentioned earmarks. I know that MnDOT, they like to call them earmarks. I call them constituent requests. We all represent people. We all have feedback from folks who are driving around the state of Minnesota, and they come to us with requests as to what has to be done in terms of fixing our highways and our bridges. And so I call those constituents requests. It is true that 2 years ago we did take an attempt at creating some transparency within the selection process at MnDOT. And there is, I think I'm correct on this, it's 13 or 14 different methods of selecting projects within the MnDOT system. And we corrected or tried to correct and create some transparency in that selection process, and we got 3 of them out of the 13. There is in this bill a request to get that transparency into the capital improvements portion of the transportation system over at MnDOT. But even if we get this capital improvements one through that is in this bill, you know, we've still got double digits in terms of project selection that we have to shine a light on. And it's all about transparency. I do not believe that the general public has adequate input into how projects are selected. And that's why I keep pushing for this transparency process and the modification of how projects are selected. I think the people in the state of Minnesota are paying for those projects, and I think that they should have a right of input, meaningful input, as to how those projects are selected. And until and unless that happens, I am not going to stop talking about constituent requests, because without us doing that, our constituents have no way of making any meaningful input as to how those projects are selected by MnDOT. Those are my thoughts regarding Senator Senjum's bill. Mr. President, I want to thank Senator Senjum. I know that he and his staff have worked very, very hard on putting this bill together, and given some very difficult circumstances, I think he has done a wonderful job. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next is Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would perhaps just first of all, just a couple of comments with respect to some of the commentary that I heard. For anybody that doesn't think that transportation projects create jobs, I wish I had the note that I got yesterday from the 49ers. It was absolutely, they were ecstatic. This was a great bill. They're looking forward to getting to work. With respect to laboratory facilities, we have some of the finest in the world. We can always build more, but we have some of the finest in the world right here in Minnesota. With respect to the Emergency Operations Center, it's a place. With the advent of statewide communications electronically, you can run an Emergency Operations Center out of a motorhome, and we do in Rochester. With respect to recycling, we've got a lot to do there. Yes, no question about it. We'll move on. And then with respect to just the earmark projects, I tell you what, as we go across Minnesota and we make these visits, it's not infrequent that we have district MnDOT engineers with us, talking with us. And the comment is almost always something like this: just give us the money and we're ready to go. Just give us the money and we're ready to go. And I would tell you, particularly with the county road and bridge projects, and I think of Mike Sheehan in Olmsted County, Mike says, Dave, you passed that bonding bill in May, and we got that money out the door by September. It's ready and it's working, and I suspect that's true of every county in Minnesota. This money gets out there fast, it goes to work fast. With respect to, Mr. Chair, I think I'll just stop there, but you know, some of the rhetoric we heard is not exactly correct, and we'll just leave it at that. Transportation projects, water and sewer projects make jobs. There's no question about it. It's a job-intensive kind of activity. It takes a lot to do these projects, all kinds of different trades, and those trades are going to go to work. They're going to make money. They're going to spend money, and our economy is going to spend. So, Mr. President, I would proceed now to offer the A1 amendment, A21 amendment, for consideration by the group.
Thank you. Thank you. Senator Senjum offers the A21 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Senjum moves to amend Senate File Number 3463 as follows, page 4, line 4, delete. This is the A21 amendment.
Thank you. Senator Senjum, to your amendment.
Mr. President, the A21 amendment is, I would say, a housekeeping amendment. It was offered to us by MMB with respect to some clarifications of various languages in the document to make what we had language-wise in the document functional.
Is there any discussion on the A21 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? We'll take a brief pause to get votes from the other locations. Having received a sufficient number of votes, the motion prevails and amendment is adopted. Next, I have Senator Anderson.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to offer the A12 amendment.
Senator Anderson offers the A12 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment. Senator Anderson, we don't have an A12 amendment.
Okay.
Senator Anderson, why don't we find where your amendment is, and we'll skip to the next.
Great.
To the next
Thank you, Mr.
speaker.
President.
Next, I have Senator Jasinski.
Mr. President, I offer the A15 amendment.
Senator Jasinski offers the A15 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Jasinski moves to amend Senate File Number 3463 as follows. Page 54 after line 34, insert. This is the A15 amendment.
Senator Jasinski, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a technical or a housekeeping amendment as well. The Minneapolis Veterans Home Trust Bridge project was approved in about 2017. It was a $7.8 million project. What this amendment does is take the unspent portion of that bill and uses it for asset preservation at veterans facilities. With that, I stand for questions.
Thank you, Senator Jasinski. Senator Senjum, to the amendment.
Mr. President, I'm fine with the amendment. We've had discussions about this with the Veterans Home Group, so it's been fine. It's agreed upon.
Thank you. Are there any more discussion on the amendment? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Those opposed? We'll take a brief pause to collect votes from the other locations. Having received a sufficient number of votes, the amendment the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Any more discussion? Senator Hayden?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Sorry about that. I was conferring with my colleagues. I just have some brief comments. I thought that Senator Dibble's overview of what's not in the bill and its process was absolutely spot on. And as I was listening closely, one of the things that came to me was Senator Newman's kind of conversation about earmarks. And Senator Newman, as eloquent as he is and experienced, he has decided that earmarks are what we thought were earmarks. He just looks at them as constituent requests. And I thought about that, and I thought that was good. I thought, yeah, constituent requests. So, Mr. President, I started thinking about and started looking in the bill of all of Minnesota's constituents. And so, in particular, I had to get a piece of paper to look at. It's not a prop. I started to just look at things like the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board in Senator Champion's district. And this is a part of town that we're pretty concerned about, a part of the state in which young people need places to expend some of that extra energy and get some of the homework help that they need. And, you know, we around here talk a lot about the education achievement gap. There was talk around here of a constitutional amendment to help with that issue. As a matter of fact, I received a few ads on Facebook that really wanted me to deal with that. But members, I'll say this to you. The issue of education is holistic. It also is the facilities, because other places in the bill, I saw that the National Sports Center in Blaine got money. But somehow, in North Minneapolis,
Senator Hayden, I just ask that we keep the conversations down in the chamber, so Senator Hayden has the floor. Sorry, Senator Hayden.
No, thank you, Mr. President. But somehow in that part of town or that region of the state, they were able to get the necessary recreational and enrichment tools that they need to keep that facility up, which I support. But somehow in North Minneapolis, that didn't work out so well. There are huge infrastructure issues in Minneapolis that we need, but I keep looking down the list and those constituents got nothing. Those constituents' requests didn't get anything. Mr. Chair, we talk a lot about, and we've spent a lot of time, especially in this cycle, talking about, today we talk about COVID. It's really kind of overwhelmed us, but prior to that, last year, and it's not going anywhere, the issue was opioids. The issue of opioid issues in our communities. And I'll tell you that some of the most devastated communities that are dealing with this issue of opioids, and has been for a long time, not before it got popular in a pill form, but when you used to be able to shoot it up in your arm, was in communities like mine, in the Native American community, in the African American community. And Mr. Chair, we have a series of proposals that we asked that the state would help out to fund clinics that help with chemical dependency, health, and mental health. Mental health is a buzzword around here. The Native American Community Clinic, American Indian Center, they got nothing. Those constituent requests didn't get a thing. As a matter of fact, the governor earmarked $30 million. He said that he needed to be able to invest in these communities, which each and every day are suffering of the weight of addiction. Oh, but let's get back to COVID. That is also outside of, unfortunately, our folks that are living in congregate and long-term home settings. The next group that gets hit are African American and Indigenous and American Indian people, and we're looking for support to be able to support them so that we can not only flatten the curve, but we can do the prevention for them to get there. But those constituents and those requests fall upon deaf ears in Senator St. Johns's bill. So, you know, I've been around here just a little bit, and one of the things that I know is that the minority, certainly, this is where we have to have a little bit of conversation. I know last year, Representative Doubt said nobody talked to him, so we didn't get a bill. So this year, Senator St. John puts a bill in front of us without much input. Senator Pappas said she invited him for a walk. They live a block away from each other, and didn't hear much from Senator Sinjum. And so, and I know that he has a lot of duties around here. Maybe we're preoccupied. Things have changed around here. Maybe it was social distancing, but not even a Zoom call to talk about what the minority needs. So, Mr. President and my friends here in the Senate, I think that it reminds me of what my grandmother said. They say what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if it's good for you, it should be good for us. I look at my friend Senator Hur, who has impassionately pleaded with us to go after micro businesses, to make sure that these malls, many of them are in my district as well, get treated equally as the big companies. I've heard my friends in the GOP talk about Main Street and how the big boxes are getting an unfair advantage. Well, I'll tell you what, the main streets in my community feel the same way. And we have for a very, very long time. So, Senator Sinjum, I am hopeful that we are going to kind of get done with this aspect of it, that you're going to sit down with our minority leads, and we're going to hammer something out that's equitable. Senator Sinjum, he's done that before. He's funded things, important initiatives in my community. There was a pool that was dilapidated and no one could swim in that Senator Sinjum and Senator Rosen helped to fund. So they know the work that we need to do in our community. So I have faith. I wanted to make sure, because I don't want to get you to a point where you don't want to do it because maybe I'm pushing on you too much. I just wanted to highlight those things. I was really taken by Senator Newman's constituent request that wanted to point out just a few of those constituent requests that the House and the governor really thought was important that somehow to get this bill. So without further ado, I know that we got a lot of work to do yet. I won't drag this on, Mr. President, but I'm hoping that we could sit down over the next couple hours and put something together that the minority can get behind, and we can pass the robust bonding bill that will be good for all of Minnesota. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hayden. Next, I have Senator Isaacson, followed by Senator Osmek and Senator Pappas.
Well, Mr. President, I know that my friends on my side of the aisle and the other have been waiting patiently for me to give my pro-higher education speech. And I have to tell you that I've been on higher ed now for a few years, and I've really struggled with some of the inconsistencies that I see. And I don't want to put this on the GOP this time. I know I like to do that, but this time it's not a GOP problem. It's the way we bond problem, that we look at a decline over the last, since 2000, in which we have declined almost 20%, 15 to 20% in terms of how much we have bonded for to help HEAPR, higher education asset preservation. And I know that we understand that there's some real needs out there. Senator Anderson and I spent some time this summer where we went through this chemistry lab at the University of Minnesota. And I don't know if you've seen the Robert Downey Jr. Movies where he was working, and it was in the 1800s, and there was labs, and that's what that reminded me of when we talked about their labs looked like they were literally out of those scenes. They were so old and so unsafe, and the circumstances they're created in were so negative that learning was almost impossible at a Tier 1 research institution. Right? Oh, Sherlock Holmes. I don't know why that evaded me. That was awkward. Anyways, so the old Sherlock Holmes movies. And so I'm going to say that there are several concerns I have about what we've done to make sure that we're taking care of the assets we have in our higher education system. I've heard time and time again where they come to us and they tell us these stories about these buildings, and I had the chance to go up and teach a class just for a day up in the University of Minnesota Duluth, and I was in one of their buildings there, and all the staff was talking about how this building was never meant to be for classrooms, and it was falling apart, it was inadequate, in some cases it was borderline unsafe. And so another example of a building we've not been able to fix, modernize, or update. I think on one level, we can all resonate what it's like to be in a situation like that. When I was in college, I had a building that I had to go do classes in that was the same situation. And it really is an unsafe, unhealthy environment. But the problem that bothers me about it is how clearly fiscally irresponsible it is not to take care of these things in front. So when you have bonding for HEAPR, these things cost us this much dollars to fix now. But if we don't bond for it now and tell them to bandage it up till next year, it's going to cost incrementally more. And every year we don't bond for these things, we incrementally the price tag goes up. So we're literally just borrowing against the future and it's going to cost us way more money down the road to take care of these assets than it would if we just did it right now in a good time to bond. But on top of all of those things, right? On top of all of those things, we've allowed this now to progress over the last 20 years to the point where it's almost out of control. I remember I asked in committee a couple times in a couple different years, what would it take to get us to the point where we were to make this whole so you literally wouldn't have to come back and ask us to bond for this again? It was several billions with a B dollars just to get us to the point in which we are actually managing and taking care of these buildings. Folks, we have a lot of schools around here, really good schools. And our state prides itself on its education. You've heard me talk on the floor time and time again about how important it is for us to maintain and take care of our educational system, because it's one of the reasons why we're able to do what we do to be so successful as a state. It is one of the pillar foundations of that. What I'm concerned about is that we continue to ignore that like that doesn't have a relevant part of the discussion. And I know it's not sexy and exciting or important in the eyes of we aren't getting tons of letters on it. It doesn't necessarily drive to the top of public opinion. But it is literally and metaphorically the infrastructure of our state, of our learning. It is literally and metaphorically really the state of our foundation of education and how and well we value our schools. These schools are providing such an important function in our entire community and cultural setting. And we continue to let these things go by. We continue to not fund and take care of these things because at some point somebody gets afraid of a dollar figure. We never bond even close to the amount we should bond for. I'm not saying we max that out. I don't think that's responsible. But when we're in a position to bond that has not only a great effect, a side effect of creating jobs and stimulating the economy on some level, but it also keeps our schools in good shape, keeps our responsibility of our buildings in good shape. That just makes sense, especially if we know we're going to do it at some point. So I can do it for $1 today or $10 next week. Any average person say, well, we should do it for $1 today. Go around the state. Think about it in your mind. Go around the state. The University of Minnesota, Minnesota Morris, right? You can go to Mankato, St. Cloud, Morehead State University. I don't think they call it that anymore, but you know what I'm saying. And the idea is these schools all have buildings that are literally falling apart. They're not safe, they're not adequate, they don't meet up the needs we have for the workforce we have today, for the educational situation we're in terms of taking care of and providing for those students to go out in the workforce. Again, I can't stress enough, just the one experience I had at the University of Minnesota in this chem lab, and it was like walking out of the set of that Sherlock Holmes movie. It had all of the same kind of beakers and everything you might imagine, and it looked just as dusty as old as it did in the movie. And they walked us through what is it like during the class period, and they explained how unfunctional it was because that school and that building was built for teaching chemistry in the 1940s. It's not safe. We don't have enough people watching these kids as they work with chemicals and do their experiments. The way it's set up, they put the kids in a situation where they're literally having to go out to the hallway and sit down on the ground to take responsibility and do their homework. There just simply isn't enough space and room for them to do the basic things they do. This isn't at a community college. No offense to my friends in Minn State, it's not a Minn State school. It's a Tier 1, internationally renowned research institution. One that is known to bring way more dollars into our state than what we spend on it. And they need help making sure we take care of the assets they have there. And this bill, it just falls short of that. I want to be clear about this. This is really important that we understand this. This isn't a critique of Senator Stenjum and the Senate GOP, because when you look at that chart that walks us backwards from top to bottom, right? And it walks backwards to 2000. That chart shows that when whoever was in control, that was a difficult nut to crack, right? Republican, Democrat governor, Republican, Democrat leaders, it doesn't matter. It's a tough one to crack. And I realize that the bonding bill is kind of a unique animal because of what it requires to pass. And a lot of political games seem to be played with it here towards the end. But that doesn't mean we should take our eye off the ball. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be supporting our schools. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be putting the value into those schools that's so important. So when I look at what this bill does and what we failed to do, I'm really concerned about how well we are managing and taking care of our assets in higher education. We do not understand the seriousness or the gravity of this situation, that we've allowed these buildings to go in such disrepair. Such disrepair, and let me be really clear. I mean, it's really easy thing to think about. We can fix an older building and make it work, or let it run itself out and build a newer building and spend 5 times as much money. Doesn't make sense financially. Or we can fix a building now and it costs us X amount of dollars, or guess what? We can fix it later and it costs us way more at Y amount of dollars. I'll tell you, that's a real concern I have for the way we think about bonding. And so I think it's really, really important. And I hope Senator Stenjum hears me on this. And again, Senator Stenjum, this is not the fault of one bonding chair, and I'm not picking on you. I'm saying that we need to be very serious, and here's what the problem is. We need to be very intentional about saying this is going to become one of our priorities, taking care of that. Now, I get it. It's one of millions of priorities. I want this one to rise a little higher and be taken a little bit more seriously, because I'm not sure we're doing that right now, and I'm concerned about what that's going to mean for our future, the quality of our education, and frankly, the amount of money we're going to have to spend going forward. There's going to be a lot of money we have to spend going forward to make sure that we catch up with all the buildings we're behind on. Think about this. We could bond for $1 billion right now and still be $3 billion behind. That's because we have kicked the can down the road year in and year out. It's competing priorities. I get that. But at some point we have to say enough is enough. We're going to take care of these things we own and we take responsibility for. I'm proud of our lakes. I'm proud of our rivers. I'm proud of our parks. I'm proud of all parts of Minnesota. And this is one part we can't be as proud of. And that's a really sad statement. So I want to encourage all my friends in the Senate and anybody else who's listening, we need to take this seriously and support higher education asset preservation. If we don't do that, we're setting ourselves up for fiscal failure later, or we're just going to lose the buildings. And guess what? Building a new building is way more expensive than taking care of the old building. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Isaacson. Next, we have Senator Anderson again.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to try this another time. I'd like to offer the A12 amendment.
Thank you. Senator Anderson offers the A12 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Anderson moves to amend Senate File Number 3463 as follows, page 48 after line 12, insert. This is the A12 amendment.
Senator Anderson, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Senate File 3665, which was heard in both the Higher Education Committee and in Finance Committee. It authorizes the University of Minnesota to refinance debt taken out by the university to construct the Biomedical Discovery District buildings on the Twin Cities campus. It would further allow the university to capture these savings from the refinancing and apply them to the design, site acquisition, and pre-construction of the clinical research facility also on the Twin Cities campus. Back in 2008, the state of Minnesota authorized an annual appropriation to the University of Minnesota to support debt service on the Biomedical Discovery District project. Our esteemed colleague, Senator Cohen, was the author here in the Senate of that bill. The state took this approach versus an appropriation of general obligation bonds. The university then issued the bonds and constructed the project, and the state appropriation services the debt. The project is now fully built and functioning as a premier research facility for the state. According to current capital market rates, if we do this refinancing, The university can save approximately $1.7 million per year on the state's appropriation, totaling $28 million in savings over the remaining life of the bonds. The university also requests authorization to capture the savings from this refinancing and apply it to a completion of design and construction documents, acquire land, and begin site preparation and pre-construction services for the clinical research facility. Assuming taxable debt is issued, the university would be able to issue approximately $22 million in new debt with the annual savings. The clinical research facility is a key component of the university's plan to increase the medical school rankings by increasing patient access to clinical trials and gathering data from patient visits to improve clinical outcomes. The new clinical research facility will connect a broad array of clinical research units and activities from across the university, providing a consolidated home for the Clinical Translational Science Institute and providing new patient-centered clinics that facilitate patient participation in clinical research. This legislation will both authorize the university to refinance the bonds as well as use the savings on the CRF project, thereby taking a project off the university's legislative request list without the issuance of additional general obligation bonds. Mr. President, I have had conversation with Senator Senjum, and Senator Pappas is aware as well. I believe they are both in support of this amendment, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Senator Marty. Senator Dibble, were you? Okay, Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would certainly concur with this. This is something we've talked about, and I think it's important to the University of Minnesota as they embark on this project, biomedical research facility. These are complicated buildings. It's going to take several years to design this building. If we're going to do it, now's the time to start. This is, in my mind, money that this legislature has, if you will, given or at least appropriated to the University of Minnesota to work within the framework of their organization to do what they need to do to build a strong university. And with respect to this building, that will make the University of Minnesota even stronger. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Senjum. Senator Hayden.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And I know that we had heard this proposal in the Finance Committee, and so I'm speaking on behalf of some of us there, but maybe not all in my caucus. I'm a little concerned about this issue, as I know what they want to refinance and then take those captured savings and put them into other needed issues or other needed buildings or ideas at the university. And we know that these are important things that they want to do. But Mr. President, I'll remind you that in Minneapolis, I just gave you a speech, and in particular, I was just thinking of Senator Champion's district in North Minneapolis. We can't get the first bite at the apple, much less kind of get another one and refinance it and start another project, right? The state has already paid for this. If we start to do this, this is definitely a slippery slope. Then everybody might be able to do this, to say, well, hey, there's some extra savings here. Hey, the bond rate is low, or we can refinance. We don't want to pay it off. We don't want to pay our mortgage off. We want to refinance it and buy another building. That might be a good idea. Maybe that's what the university might need, but there are so many other needs in our community. There's so many other things, and I've had this conversation with the university. You guys know, with the Board of Regents and the former president, and I'm giving our new president, President Gable, a little bit of room to move, but the university isn't serving these communities very well. So, Mr. President, I don't think this is a good idea on a lot of reasons, but one, I don't think that it's equitable or fair.
Thank you, Senator Hayden. Senator Pappas to the amendment.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. President and members, I rise to support the amendment. I've been a longtime supporter of the university and their medical facilities and their research facilities, and I think this is a wise move at this time. On the other hand, I do agree with Senator Hayden that there's a lot to be desired in this bill in terms of equity projects.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Any other discussion on the A12 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We'll take a brief pause while we take the votes in the other locations. Having received a sufficient number of votes, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Senator Pappas.
Mr. Chairman, I think there are a couple other members who wanted to speak before I offered the amendment. I think Senator Marty, looks like Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members, you heard my earlier remarks about how extraordinary this bill is and the kind of pressure that's being placed on the Trunk Highway Fund to support this extraordinary level of bonding at a time with declining revenues. And I was perusing towards the back of the bill, and you know, since I made my remarks, I stumbled across something that is truly remarkable, something I don't know that I've seen in a bonding bill, and that is reductions in the Department of Transportation's budget, the budget that we adopted last year. And the reductions to appropriations from the Trunk Highway Fund in order to support this incredible level of pressure that we're putting on the Trunk Highway Fund with all of this pressure. We not only are not following the advice and counsel of the Commissioner of Transportation to not do this extraordinary level of funding through borrowing, through using the credit card, but we're doing so by making cuts. So we're making cuts to the existing services, and frankly, those kinds of things that deliver more jobs, because we know that when the Department of Transportation actually goes out and renovates and rehabilitates and fixes our 60-year-old aging roadway and bridge infrastructure, that actually, like I described before, is more jobs than going out and laying down new roads and new asphalt. The fix-it and repair policies, which are going to be cut by these cuts to the Department of Transportation budget, is going to support pressure on the Trunk Highway Fund, which it cannot bear because of the declining revenues supported by the existing appropriations to the programs and services that we've already appropriated. So we're doing some budget work, Mr. President, and we're going back and we're unwinding the budget that we adopted in order to support borrowing money and putting additional financing and bonding pressure for a whole bunch of projects that aren't even going to happen. So members, take a look at pages 61 and 62. Look at the cuts to the Department of Transportation, cuts that are coming out, cutting from jobs, cutting from the work that local contractors do all around the state to support an extraordinary level of borrowing against a diminishing fund for projects that we're not even going to deliver. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Next, we have Senator Marty.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I wanted to speak briefly about the housing issue and concerns about this bill. The pandemic has clearly exposed the housing crisis. It did not create it. It made it worse. But it was, no doubt about it, a huge crisis in Minnesota. Not only for a cold state having a lot of homeless people and growing numbers of homeless people, but huge numbers of people who can't afford their housing, who are very couch hopping and other things. Our homeless problems and our vulnerably housed people problem is a crisis. We talk about how if you want to help people with chemical dependency treatment, you want to help them with mental health challenges and so on, the first thing you have to do is stabilize their housing. And the Homes for All Coalition, which is a very positive step forward in Minnesota to have all the housing advocacy groups, the faith groups, Isaiah and others coming forward, Micah coming forward and saying we want to have a housing policy that takes care of homes for all people. And the Homes for All Coalition that they've formed, it came out and they were asking for $400 million in housing infrastructure bonds. Another $100 million they were asking for in public housing. I've heard estimates that the public housing in Duluth, St. Paul, and Minneapolis alone have a backlog of maintenance problems that close to $500 million in work needed. And I see that in the bill, we've got a total of $2 million for public housing rehabilitation. Not $100 million, not $500 million, $2 million. For housing infrastructure bonds, there's $200 million in the House and Senate, and again, the Homes for All Coalition was asking the governor and the House have 200 million. Homes for All Coalition was asking for 400 million, and there's a zero here. Emergency shelters, there's a zero here. I think you would assume by reading this bill that we have no housing problem, or a very, very, very minimal housing problem. And I think that's a severe crisis, a severe defect in this bill. To me, if we don't take care of housing, we're never going to get a handle on other health care, mental health, other challenges without first addressing that. And if we weren't in the middle of a housing crisis, maybe 2 million would be enough. But we are in the middle of a crisis that's only been made worse by the pandemic. So I urge members to reject this bill. Just on the housing alone is enough reason for doing it. It should be ranked at the top of our priorities, not at the bottom where we get a couple $1 million out of a $1 billion bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. President.
Senator Senjum.
Mr. President, thank you, Senator Marty, and I don't disagree with anything that you've said there. Housing is very important. This year, unlike other years, it's being handled per agreement between the House and the Senate outside of the bonding bill. I think Representative Hausman and Senator Weber, Senator Westrom, maybe Senator Graham, they are some of the players that I know that are involved in that discussion. I think we're going to hear about a housing bill later tonight. So it's not outside the bonding bill by intention. It's only outside of it because the decision has been made to handle it in a separate vehicle.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
One more.
Senator Marty.
Mr. President, thank you. And Senator Senjum, I understand the housing infrastructure bonds could be handled in a separate bill. It doesn't require the supermajority or anything. But the public housing, the only way we're going to be able to address that is through GO bonds. That does require it, and that's where we only have 2 million compared to 60 million for the governor, 48 million for the House. And to me, that's not close, 60 or 48 to 2. I understand, and I hope housing infrastructure bonds can be dealt with separately, though we are running out of days. So I just urge the Senate to put more money into this bill, not just the 2 million we have in there now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Pappas.
Mr. President, I'd like to offer the A19 amendment.
Senator Pappas offers the A19 amendment. Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Pappas moves to amend Senate File Number 3463 as follows, page 47, line 23, delete. This is the A19 amendment.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I know it's very difficult here with the technology. I hope that the amendment is posted and a spreadsheet is available so that you can really compare and see the differences because this is what I offered in the Capital Investment Committee, which would really be a really robust bonding bill. And if we get to a point where we do take a vote on this, Mr. President, I'd like a roll call vote.
Roll call requested, roll call granted.
Thank you. You know what? Asset preservation is not a real exciting topic. We all kind of gravitate toward the new shiny new building, house, whatever, dress on the corner. But unless, and you may not feel it's even important, unless, of course, your roof is leaking or your air conditioning has gone out and it's 95 degrees, or if the heat isn't hot and you're wearing your coat indoors, which in some of our classrooms happens with our students. But these are the basics. And perhaps when is there not a better time than now, Mr. President, to really value the basics? I mean, we've been home for several months, and so we know that if we don't have the basic things that we need, the food, the shelter, the heat, the air conditioning now as the weather's getting warmer, then it's a little bit difficult for us. It may be more than uncomfortable, especially if we don't have the shelter that we need. So all of our state facilities that we're responsible for, they deserve that we really take care of the basics. They deserve it, because otherwise, why do we have them? Now, Senator Isaacson talked very eloquently about what we call HEAPR in the higher ed world, our repair and our maintenance fund for our higher ed institutions. And when you look at what is in the CENGM bill for the University of Minnesota, $55 million, it sounds like a lot of money. But in this amendment, it's $125 million, which is much closer to what the university has requested and what's in the governor's bill. For our state, our Minnesota state colleges and universities across our state, $85 million in the CENGM bill, $142.5 million in this amendment. Minnesota State Academies were responsible for asset preservation would move from a mere $1.5 million to $5,730,000. Purpose Center for the Arts from $0 to at least $2 million to help with their asset preservation. Natural resources, huge difference. Only $19 million in the CENGM bill, while $70 million in this amendment. Just a few more projects, member, that I want to point out. We had talked about the need for wastewater, for clean water, but in this CENGM bill, $14 million to the Pollution Control Agency as opposed to $120 million in this amendment. Because when we're talking about being safe means having clean water, means having a way to deal with household hazardous waste and being able to manage our solid waste, and also dealing with these Superfund sites so that they can be opened up for development. The Minnesota Zoo asset preservation, $1.5 million in the CENGM bill, $26 million in this amendment to deal with all the asset preservation, revitalizing the zoo, and with the tree trail repurposing. Administration is $4.250 million in the CENGM bill, $48 million in this bill. And this includes Capitol Complex security upgrades. And this isn't just for our security members, this is the people's house. This is for all the people who come to visit us, will come to visit us again once we open up, we're very hopeful, to make sure that they can come here and feel safe. Moving on, public safety, again, I mentioned earlier, the new State Emergency Operations Center. No, Senator CENGM, I don't think a trailer does it. $29 million in this bill for a new operations center, state-of-the-art, that will really, we've got a lot of security needs. We've got online security needs. We've got physical security needs. We need an emergency operations center. We also have natural disasters. It's not just the virus that is the latest natural disaster, but we have tornadoes. We have floods. It's important for us to have an emergency center. Rail grade separation program sounds like a real safety program to me, especially if you live near a railroad line. Nothing in the CENGM bill, $110 million in this bill, as well as $58 million for facilities capital improvement. I was really surprised at this one, Senator CENGM, that nothing for Greater Minnesota Transit, nothing. At least there's $10 million here in this amendment. Safe routes to schools, dozens of schools are lining up with their applications for support for their Safe Routes to Schools program with their local match, $2 million in the CENGM bill. At least there's $8 million in this bill, in this amendment. The Met Council, well, I have to talk a little bit about regional trails and parks because it's very close to my heart. And right now, for safety reasons, we've had to limit our use of recreational activities except for our parks. And our parks are now getting double the usual usage. And so that's a lot of wear and tear in our parks. And so in this amendment, there's $15 million that goes out to all the metro parks, which are like our state parks in the metro area, as opposed to only $4 million in the Senjum bill. And I'm just going to mention again the lack of transit, really tragic. This gets our essential workers to work. When the airport opens up, that bus line is filled with people going to work at the airport. They're not essential workers, but except to themselves, because that's how they make their income. Human services asset preservation is double in this bill, from $8 million to $16 million. Corrections asset preservation is only $19 million in this year in the Senjum bill, as opposed to $69 million in this amendment. Members, I just have a few more, and that's the public safety facilities. You know, I was slow to get on board with public safety facilities, but now I really see the importance of them. I think I skipped over them. These are where we train our first responders, our firefighters, our police, our EMTs, and we really need to have a very robust support for our regional training facilities. And finally, the Minnesota Historical Society, they have just as many asset preservation needs as the rest of the state, and there's $1.5 million in the Senjum bill and $5 million in this amendment. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to wrap up, and I'm certainly open for questions on this amendment and would be very interested in hearing other people's opinions on the differences between the two bills and what we really need to do in our state to have a robust bonding bill.
Further discussion on the A19 amendment. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Pappas yield?
Senator Pappas will yield.
Senator Pappas, I wonder if you can tell me, because I'm frantically paging through your bill here, what is the general obligation and other bond values within this document? I cannot find them. How big a bill is this from the standpoint of all funds and how they're broken up?
Senator Pappas.
Mr. President, and Senator Senjum with GO and TF bonds, it is $2.48 billion, so almost $2.5 billion.
Senator Senjum.
Well, thank you, Madam President. Would Senator Pappas continue to yield?
The senator will yield.
Again, looking through the document, and that's frankly all I have, Senator Pappas. So, what are the debt service payments on this for this coming year, or this year rather, in the coming two?
Senator Pappas.
Senator Senjum, there's no debt payments this year, but there would be $125 million in debt payments next year, and well worth it when you think about a $2.5 billion bill. It's a small amount to invest for the amount of jobs that we're going to create and the amount of infrastructure that we're going to be able to fix.
Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pappas, do you have it for 22 and 23 on the general obligation bonds?
Senator Pappas.
I believe that impact is $129 million
Senator
for
Senjum.
2023.
Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. I'm just looking over the respective numbers. Of course, you have a bill that's maybe 2.5 times mine or so. So obviously it's got a lot more projects in it, and you're able to go through your list and say, well, why didn't they have it? It is because this is a 998 bill, and it's put together within the agreement, if you will, of the House and the Senate. And we've packed as much into it as possible, but just looking at those numbers, So with respect to general obligation bonds for 2021, we're at 3.7 million, and it ramps up to 30 million for 30.5 million for the out years 22 and 23. I'm not sure that I'm getting the right numbers, but I think we can agree that your bill costs substantially more to our general fund than this one, and that's quite obvious. There's a lot more in it. There's a lot more to pay for it. So as we think about where we are with respect to our economy, and Senator Rosen, I'm not necessarily calling on you, but I'm sure she would agree that there are going to be a lot of stresses going forward. What we've tried to do within this 998 bonding bill is to try to find that balance. What are we able to afford, yet what puts to work the most people in job-intense fashion? So, you have a nice bill, Senator Pappas. As bonding chair, I'd like to carry a bill like this someday, but we can't today, and it's got a lot of things in it, and they're not bad things. Let me assure you, they're not bad things, but for the here and now, it's probably not the kind of bill that we can go forward with financially, and with that, I would yield the floor.
Senator Pappas.
I'm sorry, Senator Sinjum, I think I misspoke because I was looking at the lines that were the general fund impact, because this bill does include cash, because it does include the governor's recommendations for cash, and it includes the equity projects that have been suggested on the floor, that they're very important. If we're just looking at the general obligation debt service, which is what your question was for me, in 2021, the impact is 26.8 million. Yours is 3.7 million. And then in 2022, it would be 82.8 million. Yours is 11.7 million, and then it does increase. So I acknowledge, of course, it's a large bonding bill. It's the purpose is to demonstrate that all the needs that we have in our state. And because we've skipped those years, if we had done bonding bills in 2016, if we had done bonding bills last year, and I think there was another year in which we skipped a bonding bill, then doing a $1 billion bonding bill would work just fine because we had already funded all those projects. I think I mentioned in committee that it gets frankly embarrassing when we do these tours around the state and we go back for a second and a third time to visit with these poor local people who have been trying to get their project funded for 5 years, and we still haven't funded them. So we have a lot of catching up to do, and I think this bill just demonstrates how much catching up that we should be doing, and that's that's what we need to do right by the state. So I'm happy that you have a bonding bill here before us. I think certainly $1 billion is better than $750 million, and I hope to God we're going to get a bonding bill passed this year.
Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. May I just, would Senator Pappas yield one more question?
Senator Pappas will yield. Senator Senjum.
Senator Pappas, how much cash does your bill have within it from the standpoint of need?
Senator Pappas.
Mr. Chairman, just a rough estimate, if the debt service in the first year is $26 million and the total general fund impact is $125 million, then there must be about $100 million in cash. Okay. And a lot of that was requested by the governor.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Pappas. I don't have $100 million of cash. I wish I did. It would make this process a little easier, but we don't have any cash within this bill, and we weren't granted any cash, and given the financial condition of this state, what's an investment and what's not, we can argue about that, I suppose, but for the here and now, I think we're guarding our cash pretty closely in the Finance Committee, so this bill does not have cash in it. $100 million is a lot of cash. I wish I had a tenth of that, but we don't. So thank you so much for that answer. But I would just conclude by saying that nice bill, but at this point in time, it's not affordable. And the bill I have, I think, before you is affordable. It's a job-intense bill, and it will put people to work, and I think it's right for the time. So thank you, Mr. President.
I have Senator Frentz, followed by Senator Limmer. Senator Frentz.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to say this is entirely about what we can afford. Don't just ask what the bill costs, ask what it pays. This amendment is going to put a lot of Minnesotans to work. We have the money. The House had a bill at this size. The governor had a bill at this size. There's no question we can do this, and we should. Look at the fundamentals here. Interest rates are as low as they have been in a generation. It is never going to be a better time for the state to borrow money. 2, the state's credit rating is AAA. We are going to get the most favorable terms on this borrowing. That's a good time to borrow. 3, we're in a recession now. That recession is likely to continue. If we are ever going to put Minnesotans to work, and plenty of them, this is the time. In 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt founded the Civilian Conservation Corps to put millions of Americans to work. Why? Because we were in a depression. It was exactly what the country needed. This bill is exactly what the state of Minnesota needs. And setting aside the many excellent projects in the amendment that Senator Pappas is talking about, let's send a message to the state of Minnesota that we are going to bond robustly, that we are going to do the things we need to do. And it's true we are behind. Even if we weren't behind, this is the time to do this. There is never going to be a better time. And I would ask members to consider a yes vote on this as a message to Minnesota. Ask yourself this. When's the last time you heard a community say, oh, shoot, we got a bonding project? Answer, never. For that reason and for a lot of the other reasons we've talked about, this is an amendment that should be added. Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's a cool microphone.
Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been listening very carefully to the discussion. This amendment to me seems as if it's out of order. I'd like to raise that as a point of order, Mr. President.
Senator Limmer, can you please state what rule your point of order is referencing?
Mr. President, if I can bring your attention to Rule 7.3 as well as 7.4. 7.3 defines what an omnibus tax and appropriation bill is, and listed as number 14, it makes reference to an omnibus capital investment bill. So 7.3 makes the definition, but 7.4 makes reference that an amendment to an omnibus appropriation bill or that is a Senate file is out of order if, according to paragraph 1, it increases a net appropriation from a fund. And in this case, it's the general fund we're talking about for a fiscal biennium without a corresponding increase in net revenue compared to the bill as it was reported to the floor on the Senate. Now, the previous discussion that we've had revealed the fact that this bonding bill that we are considering in the A19 amendment is nearly $2.5 billion worth of bonding projects. The effect on the general fund is considerably higher as well. 125,000, or perhaps that's million, by 8.8 of the original bill that's being attempted to be amended.
Any further advice? Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't think that it should be out of order to want to take care of the infrastructure needs of our state. I don't think it should be out of order to want to put people to work in the middle of an economic collapse. There are times in our history, members, when we need to take extraordinary moves, and this is one of them. So, Mr. President, I request that you rule that it is in order so that we can take a vote on the contents of this amendment.
Any further advice? Members, I rule that the point of order is well taken and the amendment is out of order.
Mr. President, I request, I'd like to challenge the ruling of the President and request, I'll tell you, I don't like to do this because as former President, I don't like to challenge the President, but in this case, it's an extraordinary time, an extraordinary opportunity to demonstrate our support for a robust bonding bill. So I'd like to challenge your ruling and I'd like a roll call on that, please.
Senator Pappas is appealing the rule of the president, the ruling of the president. The question before the body is, shall the decision of the president be the judgment of the Senate? A green vote is in favor of the judgment of the president, and a red vote is against the judgment of the president. The secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, Capitol Room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in 323, room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in 237, room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. And members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. I will now call on Senator Frentz to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report a no for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes no. Senator Frentz.
I report a no for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes no. Senator Frentz.
I report a no for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Franzen.
Senator Franzen votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes no. Members, we're under roll call. Please take your discussions outside the chamber so we can hear. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes no.
Mr. President,
Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes no. I will now call on Senator Jasinski to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Mr. President, Senator Anderson B. votes yes.
Senator Anderson B. votes yes. Senator Jasinski.
Mr. President, Senator Dames votes yes.
Senator Dames votes yes. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Hall votes yes.
Senator Hall votes yes. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ingebrigtsen votes yes.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes yes. Members were waiting. Members waiting for a couple more members to make their way to the chamber. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. Receiving 35 ayes and 32 nays, the ruling of the President is sustained. The amendment is not in order. Members, we're back on the bill. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
I don't have the number. Senate File Number 3463, a bill for an act relating to capital improvements.
Third reading. Senator Osmek.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was some conversation regarding items that were missed by the minority. I'd just like to state that there's two items that I asked for, one for Wayzata and one for the city of Orono that didn't make Senator Senjum's bill. I think Senator Senjum's bill is a very reasoned approach. It's an affordable approach. I sit on the bonding committee, and of course we hear lots and lots of requests. So we have to make decisions on what is the best at this point in time, and what can we afford? Because after all, this money isn't going to grow on trees. It's coming out of somebody's checkbook at the end of the day, and right now in Minnesota, those checkbooks aren't very full. I would say one thing about bonding itself. I have a few conservative friends that might be even a little bit more conservative than I am, and they get very frustrated with bonding. And they say that bonding is evil. And it isn't. It really is not evil, because bonding is for projects and pieces of equipment and durable assets that we will use over time. And you could say, let's just pay cash. But the reality of the situation is, with bonding, you pay for that asset over time. Example, if you're on a city council, I don't think you pay for a water tower with cash. Why? Because if you bond for it, the people who are using the water tower for the 30-year duration of the bond for the water tower, each year are paying a little bit for that bond. If you pay cash, that means you're going to have to collect all that money before you actually build the asset. And then when you build the asset, the person who might have paid for 30 years leaves town, and you take all their money for that period of time, and then that asset is not something they benefit from, the use of their tax dollars. So there is a very good reason to have bonding for those larger projects that are durable, that are needed by the state, but you do have to make choices. And I think Senator Senjum has made a very good choice in a number of cases here in this bill. So I will certainly be supporting this.
Further discussion on the bill, Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in support of Senate File 3463. Obviously, as a member of the Bonding Committee, I wanted to make a couple comments. First of all, thank you, Senator Senjum, and all our staff and all the members of the Bonding Committee, or Capital Investment Committee as we call it. As you well know, we travel the state and see a lot of things together. We spend a lot of time on a bus together and get to interact quite a bit, and it's something I've thoroughly enjoyed in my 3 years here. I want to step to one thing that was brought up earlier about earmarks, or constituent requests, as my good Senator Newman calls them. We talked about this for my first couple years on Highway 14. It was an earmark for so many years, and it wasn't shovel ready. And I want to report that Highway 14 is now under construction. And we did a brief Chamber of Commerce meeting at the Otana Chamber, and got direct impact of what it's done already. Now, grant you, it's only been under construction for about 2 months, and already that project has brought or transformed 1 million square feet of manufacturing space in Otana. Brought it to a Costco distribution center, several other businesses, Minimizer. There's been several businesses that have come to Otana just because Highway 14. We counted up the jobs. Over 385 jobs directly responsible. These are secondary jobs. These aren't construction jobs. These are jobs that are brought in by manufacturing. And there's so many more that are uncounted on deliveries and construction projects and suppliers and gravel trucks and all these things that come into Highway 14. This, members, is the best economic engine that we can create, is a bonding bill. And it's heavy in transportation, infrastructure, all the things that we saw on our bonding tour. I'm so happy for it, as there is money for HEAPR. Also, I want to thank the $85 million in HEAPR funds, which is Minnesota State, which is South Central College in my district that needs HEAPR money very badly. Minnesota Academies, $1.5 million for HEAPR there. As you well traveled and saw those buildings, they're very old, very historic, and need HEAPR money. Secondly, I want to talk about some of the other big projects that I was the sponsor of the bills on. $25 million in local bridge replacement. Those are out in your districts. You hear from your county engineers, your city administrators, all the local bridge projects that are needed. Folks, this brings $25 million to the state in local bridge projects. Second, another bill, local bridge road improvement, $80 million. This money goes out to our roads. And Highway 14 is only one example of what that money does. This money goes out to the entire state of Minnesota, creates more economic development, more jobs, better travel in our state. Very good. Another project, Township Road Improvement Grant Program, another one of my bills. This is new this year. Another bill that I know all of you that are out in your districts hear this from your township supervisors, your county board people. They need money for their township roads. This is $8 million that will go so far to culvert projects, road projects, drainage projects, things that will help our township roads throughout the state of Minnesota. Next, the BDPI program, $12 million. This fund gets tapped every single year by our local cities in greater Minnesota for projects that extend infrastructure to projects that bring jobs to every one of our communities. It is a phenomenal program. And right now, with the projects they have, this fund will be tapped. We need to get more money into this program so that all our cities across greater Minnesota and across the state will benefit. I think this is a great bonding bill. I think what we've seen across the state, many of us have traveled on the committee. Some people didn't make it to other persons' districts, but we spent, I think, about 16 days in a bus on the road traveling these projects, and there are so many great projects in this bill. We've gone to city councils, county commissioners, and to watch how they come out and support the projects that are in this bill and what the transportation projects, the most attendance that I saw on all these bonding tours that we did were for transportation. People know how important they are to their communities, what they do, the jobs they bring, the transportation access that it brings to everything from farmers to business to manufacturing to retail. This is so important to our state. And given the COVID-19, what's going on in our economy today, what it's done, these are great jobs. They're out in the open air. They're spread apart across the state. These jobs, again, are the best jobs that you can see during this incident we're having with COVID-19. And in addition, as Senator Newman said, because of what's going on, our HUTD funds are going to be down over $400 million. So this bill purposely is full of transportation projects to try and get those projects taken care of. Again, I want to thank Senator Senjum, all our members that I've traveled with, all our staff. The Capital Investment Committee does so many important things and sees firsthand in these communities how important they are. If you've not been on this committee, this is something you have to see when you're out there. The enthusiasm from the people across the state knowing what these projects do for each one of their communities is unmatchable. Again, thank you, Senator Senjum, for all your work. I hope that everybody will vote for Senate File 3463 and advance our state.
Next on the list, I have Senator Hayden, followed by Senator Nelson. Senator Hayden.
Good. Well, thank you, Mr. President. I usually don't get up this many times on a bill, but I was compelled by my good friend, Senator Jasinski. He started naming off all the projects that were in his district or that he sponsored. And I don't know, I perked up about halfway through. He said, $80 million here, $25 million there, $8 million here. It's like $112 million. Now, we just talked about basically getting nothing in the biggest city that the state has, and communities that need it more than anybody. And somehow, the prism of Highway 14 and southern Minnesota is how we should look at it, and everybody should be excited and enthusiastic. I would take 10% or 25% of what my good friend Senator Jasinski had. Just a little bit would go a long ways. But all of this money, all of these good things, all of this stuff is happening, somehow it's happening in Senator Jasinski's district, and I imagine other GOP districts. So I just wanted to point out, I wasn't going to speak again, but I just took a quick back of the envelope and just started counting up the money and said, boy, if we just had just a little bit of that, or maybe half of that, maybe we don't have to get to full parity and equity. If we just had half of that, we could go a long ways in this state. So I want to commend Senator Pappas and her bill that tried to do that, that didn't try to exclude GOP projects, that tried to include them along with projects in other parts of the city, that tried to invest in all communities, that tried to look after the transportation and transit needs of our state, that tried to look at the HEAPR problem we have throughout the state. So if we could just get just a little bit of that, if we could just kind of come together, so hopefully when we finish here and we go upstairs and we put something together, then maybe you could get just a little bit less than Senator Jasinski, and I could just get a little bit more, and then we could come together. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Senator Jasinski and then Senator Nelson. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. In response to Senator Hayden, in my district, $2.25 million went to my district. All the projects I talked about are for across the state of Minnesota, not in my district. If you want to talk some district numbers, Senator Newton, $4.8 million. Senator Pappas, $26.25 million. Senator Simonson, $10.865 million. Senator Sparks, $3.172 million. Senator Tomassoni, $11.59 million. I won't take up more time, but $2.25 in District 24. Thank you, Mr. President.
Next on the list is Senator Nelson. Senator Nelson, make sure your microphone's on, please. There we go.
Thank you.
Much better. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I just want to stand as a member on the Capital Investment Committee for the last number of years and thank Senator Senjum for putting together a bill that is a concise bill that meets the needs that are at the forefront right now. I know it's difficult. It's always difficult to get everything you want inside the budget that you've been allocated. And I particularly want to thank Senator Senjum for a few things that are in this bill. Number one, HEAPR, Higher Education Asset Preservation. That's what we should be doing, preserving those higher education assets, those buildings from further damage and need of repair. So I appreciate the significant investment in HEAPR. There's also a nice investment here in safe routes to schools. That is an important thing. We do look forward to when our students can return to their schools. We will get on the other side of this coronavirus pandemic. And we want to make sure that more and more of our kids can walk to those schools or bike to those schools in a safe way. I also appreciate the safety here that was so needed on Highway 14. Right outside of Byron, there's an intersection there that is incredibly dangerous, life-taking dangerous. And I'm very glad to see that there is funding there to finally get that intersection to be safer and lead to less accidents. And of course, there's a bill in this bonding proposal that I am just so happy to see, members, and that is the Rochester International Airport. One of its runways has reached the end of its life, and it's essential that we keep that runway up and running. This project has $18.2 billion of direct and indirect impact. And we also know that aviation is going to be on the forefront as we come out of this COVID-19 pandemic and help with the economic recovery. It will be a strategic asset. And we know that businesses will be able to innovate and reinvent as we move out of this pandemic. This is critical for this area. We need to repair this runway. We cannot afford to have one of our runways down. And we know that aviation is an integrated system, and that as our nation is moving to a hub and spoke design, we know these regional airports are essential. that we have been upon, and those who have taken the time to share with us those many needs. So thank you, Senator Senjum.
Members, that completes my list. Are there any other members who'd like to speak before we take the vote? Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the conversation today on this bill. I would just conclude by saying I think it's a good bill. I'm proud of this bill. I think this is a good bill for the times. And I will tell you, when we put this bill together, as I've said maybe 2 or 3 times, this was a bill all about job intensity. I've been on this committee for 18 years, and we do different things, and there's different themes over different years. And if you're here next year, it's going to be a lot of hazardous siting. We've got over $100 million out at Burnsville we have to take care of, as well as several Superfund sites. That's going to gobble up $200 million out of next year's bonding bill. And that's going to take away from some of the things we talked about today as well that are important to people. So this ebbs and flows with the times, but as we talk about this bonding bill, we're talking about a bill that's going to put people to work intensively and heavily. They're going to make a lot of money. They're going to, in fact, put money back into the economy, and we're going to improve the infrastructure of our state. I've been involved in this, as I said, 18 years. For my dollar, infrastructure in Minnesota is the best dollar we can spend. There's no question about it. We've got a lot of other things we have to worry about, K-12, higher ed, and on, environment, and so on and so forth. But building things that people can drive on, walk on, recreate in, work in, and so on and so forth is what people like, and what I think we ought to be spending a lot more money on. But again, this bill is at $9.98. It's a good bill. I don't want to sound threatening here, folks, but it's about 5.5 hours left of this session. I cannot tell you how difficult it is to assemble a new bonding bill given what we have to work with this. And God bless, let me just say this, God bless Susie Drew, Beth Kleinbowl, Stephanie James, and Casey Mumm, who are working behind the scenes and have been working behind the scenes. But it's extremely, extremely difficult working remotely to put a new bill together. So I would say, don't want to be threatening, this is one and done. And we need to vote this out. We need to put people to work. We need to get Minnesota going. This is our chance. We're waiting for the House. The Constitution says a bill needs to originate from the House. Well, we haven't got a bill from the House yet. Let's do our part over here, make this bonding bill work, and move forward. Wait for the House, make this thing work before midnight, put Minnesota to work. Thank you.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I think that Senator Senjum may be right that this is the last train leaving the station this session for a bonding bill. We cannot control what the House does. I can tell you that that you know that the House did not pass a bonding bill. It needs to be bipartisan. It is my hope that the Senate do pass a bonding bill. This one at $998 million of general obligation funds, I believe, is, I think, the largest one we would have ever done. And it has broad areas that they cover. I talked to Joan Gable at the University of Minnesota about their needs, and it has $85 million of resources for their asset preservation. Minnesota State, we provide another $85 million for their asset preservation. If you go to the ag communities, there's a Rural Finance Authority that gets $50 million that we can help them with. For overall transportation, $688 million of transportation dollars. One of them that I care about is $50 million for Highway 10 through Wadena. It's the only part of Highway 10 through the entire state that isn't 4-lane, and they've been asking for that for 50 years. So all the way through this, I can tell you I had a conversation with the mayor of St. Paul, Melvin Carter, for the last 2 years, asking would we please find a way to include the City of St. Paul 3rd Street Kellogg Bridge, which is $50 million, and it's in this bill. So it's not just Republican projects. It's across the whole state. I appreciate what Senjum has done, Senator Senjum, to make sure that rural and metro is taken care of, Republican and Democrat taken care of. And so, members, we work hard to get these done, and unfortunately it takes bipartisan effort in the House and in the Senate. And so I just strongly encourage you to pass this bill And let's lead in the Senate, and let's see what, through the rest of the night, what the House does, and we'll go from there. So members, I encourage you to vote green.
Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 3463 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 303, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. And members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. Members, we're under a roll call vote. Please take your conversations outside the chamber. I will now call on Senator Frentz to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Frentz.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Franzen.
Senator Franzen votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a yes for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes yes. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes no. Senator Frentz.
If I could just have a moment, please, Mr. President. Thank you for the
Senator
indulgence.
Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes no. Senator Frentz.
Mr. President, I report a no for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes no. I will now call on Senator Gazelka to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Bruce Anderson votes aye.
Senator Anderson B. votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Dames votes aye.
Senator Dames votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Hall votes aye.
Senator Hall votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Ingebretson votes aye.
Senator Ingebretson votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 38 ayes and 29 nays, the bill fails to pass. Members, the next bill up for consideration is House File...
Mr. President?
Senator Gazelka.
Do I still have to lay that bill over even if it fails?
No.
All right, thank you.
Members, the next bill up for consideration is House File 4597, Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. House File 4597 is really a very simple bill, but a timely bill in this COVID crisis. Members, this is a bill for the horse racing industry, Running Aces and Canterbury in particular, and there are just a few changes that we are making to state law. One is that we are allowing purse money to be used for...
Mr. President, excuse me, Senator, could we have some quiet in the chamber so we can hear this bill?
Yes, please, if you're going to have conversations, could you take them out in the hall? We are presenting a bill here, and it's kind of hard to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Ruud. Members, the first change is that we are allowing purse money to be used for capital improvements. These capital improvements are for the operation of live racing and beneficial to the horsepersons that are racing at the facility. Currently, these purse monies that are set aside are to benefit the horsemen, and we're staying in compliance with that, but trying to permit some additional uses. Members, in subdivision 4, we increased the rate on existing advanced deposit wagering, the fee increasing from 1% to 2%, with those funds being highlighted in Section 4, where the Racing Commission may use these funds to reduce the licensee's reimbursable costs. So members, this is for drug testing and race officials and those types of expenses that the Racing Commission provides and are generally reimbursed back by the tracks. It allows the Racing Commission to alter the calendar and lower the amount of minimum racing days from 50 if a shorter period is due to circumstances beyond the licensee's control. And members, all of these changes, the increase in fee, the capital expense, the reimbursement reduction, and the minimum racing days, all expire in December of 2021. Mr. President, members should have letters of support from Canterbury Running Aces and the Horsemen. In addition, we also have a letter from the Minnesota Indian Gaming Association saying that they do not have concerns with the bill. There was no opposition in committee. And members, this is very, very important to our local communities. I can tell you at Canterbury, these changes will save hundreds of jobs that have been affected by the COVID crisis and the anticipated social distancing requirements we're going to need through the summer. And so, members, I strongly urge a yes vote. And Mr. President, I'll stand for questions.
Further discussion on House File 4597. Any further discussion? Seeing none, the Secretary will give House File 4597 its third reading.
House File Number 4597, a bill for an act relating to horse racing.
Further discussion on 4597. Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room. Members in 303. And members in the President's office. Members in room 206. In room 237. Okay. And room 323. Yeah, no, just. What is it, Rule 47? 40.7. We ready? Pursuant to Rule 40.7, Senator Hayden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm pleased to report Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Senator Franzen votes aye.
Senator Frenzen votes aye.
Senator Klein votes aye.
Senator Klein votes aye. Sorry.
Senator Lane votes aye.
Senator Lane votes aye.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Senator Little votes aye.
Senator Little votes aye.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Senator Sparks votes aye.
Senator Sparks votes aye.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
And finally, Senator Wickland votes aye.
Senator Wickland votes aye. Senator Jasinski?
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson B. votes yes.
Senator Anderson B. votes yes.
Mr. President, Senator Dames votes yes.
Senator Dames votes yes.
Mr. President, Senator Hall votes yes.
Senator Hall votes yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ingebrigtsen votes yes.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes yes. See, we still got a couple coming in. Yeah. Kiffmeyer, Matthews, and Nelson. Hmm? Every senator desiring to vote, having voted, the secretary will close the roll. There being 65 ayes and 2 nays, the bill is passed. I'm sorry. And the title is agreed to.
All right, members, the next bill up for consideration is House File 1842, number 83 on general orders. Senator Osment.
Thank you, Mr. President. House File 1842 is the omnibus renewable development account spending bill. The renewable development account, members, is an account that receives approximately $32 to $33 million currently from the fees or taxes, depending on what you like to call it, on the casks that are on the pads at Prairie Island and in the containment unit at Monticello. This was part of the 1994 agreement, and we continue to have that fund available for use for clean energy as well as any other projects that are deemed worthy by the legislature. This is a negotiated bill. It has been negotiated with Commissioner Kelly representing the governor's office and with the House and their leadership. I'd like to note very early that I appreciate Commissioner Kelly helping gather the consensus on a number of provisions here that I think actually are very, very good for Minnesota's future. Going through the bill, members, the first section of the bill is for the Solar Awards Program, Excel Solar Awards Program. It adds $5 million to the final year, which is year number 8, and that makes the total on the year number Unit number 8, a total of $10 million, which is consistent with how we have been funding the Solar Rewards Program, and then adds an additional 9th year at $10 million. The next section is in Section 2. This is the Community Energy Transition Grants. This section is the verbiage for a creation of a fund. This is a bill for Senator Housley. The funding is later in the bill, but it is funded with $2 million worth of RDA appropriations. This fund is to help with cities that are going to be transitioning away from fossil-based fuels into a different economy. This, in particular, in Senator Housley's district, I believe that's the King plant, which is going to be decommissioned. There was a discussion in committee on having general fund appropriations for other plants, including the Hout plant that is looking at decommissioning in Senator Ingebretson district. So the next section, members, will be Section 3. This is the Prairie Island Net Zero Project. A total of $46.2 million is appropriated from the Renewable Development Account for the Prairie Island tribe. This is for them to go to quote-unquote net zero and net zero carbon emissions. They would be the first Native American community in the nation to do so, and they would be somewhat of a test project in a small scale for what could be done to change our energy use to a net zero situation. Section 4 is a provision for Xcel Energy. As a result of the COVID virus, Xcel Energy annually has a number of bonding projects that they work on through the state of Minnesota. These can be projects mostly dealing with transmission, but other projects that they have to go through, excuse me, members, they have to go through each of the counties for authorization purposes. This doesn't subvert that authorization purpose, but it does allow them to begin the process to make sure that they can get the bonds and work on those projects, which of course means jobs in Minnesota, especially during this time. Section 5 is the actual appropriations for Senator Housley's bill and also for the Prairie Island Net Zero Project. And then later in that section, starting on line 6.28, is a project that is a combination one for Senator Dames and Senator Lang. This is the Granite Falls hydropower plant. They have an inoperable turbine, and this is to refurbish and get that turbine. I believe they have 2 turbines right now that are active. This brings a 3rd one online, and this funding is $2.75 million to get that operational and begin generating electricity. So, members, it is again a negotiated deal. Certainly, our friends in the other body had a lot of different priorities. I had a lot of priorities I thought were very worthy. But we came together and said, what do we think we can agree upon? So that is the result of this bill, and I would appreciate a green vote. Thank you.
Members, we're on House File 1842, Senator Housley.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Osmek, for bringing this bill. I would like to speak to the Community Energy Transition Grant Program. This program is designed to assist communities in our state that host the state's largest remaining power plants. For decades, the plants in these communities have been economic engines that have provided power to the state, high-paying jobs for workers, and local tax revenues to their host communities. But each of these plants is nearing the end of their life. As our state transitions towards a clean energy future, all of Minnesota's largest coal and nuclear plants are either scheduled for retirement or will be considered for retirement in the coming years. This transition leaves these communities with an uncertain future. They will face massive economic development, land use, and planning challenges that are too far for them to handle on their own. In my district, the city of Oak Oak Park Heights is home to the Xcel Energy's Allen King coal plant. Property taxes from the plant account for 40% of the city's annual budget and contributes a significant amount of funding to the Stillwater School District. Thank you again to Senator Osmek for including this in the bill. I really, really appreciate it, and so do the communities of all of the other grant communities. Thank you.
Further discussion on the bill? Senator Lang.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members. Well, here I stand on the Senate floor for the fourth year in my first term as senator. I can tell you that there's a few experiences that I've had here that have paled in comparison to what's been going on, and I'm going to commend Senator Osmek on the bill that he's put together. He's been right about everything he said about the bill. It's been agreed upon by the House, it's been agreed upon by the Senate, and the governor is okay with it, and if we pass it in its form from this body tonight, it'll be signed into law. There's just one thing that is missing, and that what's missing is the Benson Biomass Business Compensation Plan. Everybody knows that as this bill has progressed through the last 4 years, that it's changed very little. In fact, it's a two-page bill that I probably don't even need to look at that compensates the businesses that we as a state hurt. We made the decision to shut down that power plant. We, as legislators, made what I still think was the right decision. But at the end of the day, we need to take care of these businesses. We put them out of business. And at a time like now, it's time that we move forward and take care of these people. Mr. President, I'd like to offer the A3 amendment.
Senator Lang offers the A3 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Lang moves to amend House File 1842 as amended pursuant to Rule 45 adopted May 16th as follows. Page 5 after line 23, insert. This is Amendment A-3.
To the amendment, Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is not the way I want this bill to be attached. This is not the way I want money to come out of the Renewable Development Fund. It is just not. The account, the fund, whatever you want to call it. This is not the right way to do it. We should have passed this as a body. We should have passed it as a body 3 years ago, and those businesses might, some of them now, still be working in a better way than what they are. The bill itself has remained unchanged. It's $40 million from the Renewable Development account that will go into a fund that is distributed by the administrative law judge. Each one of these businesses that has any acceptable loss will appeal to that administrative law judge, and they will move on from that point. Awards will be given to people that deserve those awards. With that, Mr. President, I would stand for any questions.
Members were on the A3 amendment discussion. Senator Osmek.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, Senator Lang, I'm sure you're not surprised I do need to oppose this amendment. It isn't because we don't have the money. It isn't because I don't want to do it. It's because this is a negotiated agreement, and the other body, as well as the governor's office, have expressed concerns. We had a very heated discussion in the retiring room today. We also had a conversation with the other body and the governor's office this afternoon at about 4:15. They're not budging, and I would note that we have passed it previously. It made it into, we passed it independently. We also passed it as part of the 2018 Omnibus Finance Bill, and it made it to the governor's desk. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed this, and he vetoed a lot of good projects and a lot of good ideas in that 2018 bill. And on his way out of office, Governor Dayton gave us a present of not getting things done. And that's the simple truth. We got things done in 2018. This was one of them. And the veto caused a lot of problems. and it took this with it. And it's very unfortunate. Unfortunately, though, for this moment in time, I do have to oppose it. I will continue, Senator Lang, to ask what we can do. And I think there's a couple new options even today that I have thought up and Senator Senjum thought up. We will continue to work towards this, but unfortunately, we don't have 2 additional partners to be able to get that done today. So I appreciate it, but I respectfully ask a no vote.
All right, members, I have a list here of members who would like to speak on the amendment. First is Senator Frentz, followed by Senator Simonson. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Lang, for your passion on this issue. Thank you, Senator Osmek, for bringing this bill forward and for making the deal. I'm asking members to vote no on the amendment, not because it's not a good project. Is this not on? I'm asking members to vote no on the amendment, and here's why. It'll kill the bill. I spoke with Commissioner Kelly today. We're in touch with our partners in the House. There is no question that an amendment going on here will mean the bill does not pass this year. That does not in any way take away from the quality of the project that Senator Lang is proposing, and you can count on my support for any time it comes forward as part of any bargain. I'd also like to mention the value of empowering our chairs in the Senate. I know I'm a freshman, but I hope to be a chair someday. And we have to have our chairs have the ability to make these deals. And while I do not always agree with Senator Osmek, I did on this one. And if we undermine the chairs by adding amendments to deals that they've made, it'll be harder every time for Senate chairs to make deals with the administration and with the House. Those are the reasons that I think the time is not right for this amendment to be added on. And I want to thank you, Senator Lang, again for your passion for this and for the quality of the project. And thank you, Mr. President.
Next on the list, I have Senator Simonson, followed by Senator Dames. Senator Simonson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Senator Lang, I agree with everything that you said. I wish that we'd have got this done in 2018. As you and Senator Osmek have referenced, we were really close to getting that done. I understand as the minority lead on the Energy Committee, we've talked about this issue at length for a number of years. And you're right, we did shut down this plant. And the closure of that plant had a significant impact a direct impact on local businesses and secondary and tertiary businesses. That I agree with you, there is an opportunity for us to help them out. And that opportunity is only getting farther and farther away, it seems like. I think many folks on my side of the aisle would agree that there's things that we should do and things that we can do to help these businesses out. I think there's opportunity for debate as to how we pay for it. We can figure that out, but I can assure you that I would commit to working with you and with Senator Osmek as we go forward. And if there's an opportunity to find an avenue to do something, I would commit to helping get that done. But the underlying bill is a bit of a house of cards, and we have to hold it together. These are good projects in the underlying bill. We want to see them get across the finish line. We don't want to jeopardize that. So unfortunately, I would have to oppose the amendment and ask members for a red vote.
Further discussion on the A3 amendment. Senator Dames.
Well, thank you, Mr. President and members. I rise in asking that we can find a way to get this taken care of. It's been a very, very important piece of legislation that we've been kind of just kicking the can down the road the last 3 years or so. This is a very important piece of legislation, not just for Senator Lang, but for all the senators out in that area, south of Lang's district and north of Lang's district. It's very important that we get something done here. I'm not sure what the solution and the answer is, but we do, in my opinion, we need to find some way of getting this taken care of. And I hope that if we can't do it here, we can do it some other way, but I hope we can get this taken care of in the next 5-6 hours. Thank you, members.
Next on the list, I have Senator Rosen, followed by Senator Westrom. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I stand in strong support of this amendment. I believe this is exactly what the RDA should be used for, and we made a mistake. It was an experiment, and there was a terrible cost, and we owe it to these business owners that invested in our policy going forward, and it failed. And it came out of the RDA's creation. And I remember back in 2011 and 12, I was very protective of that RDF program. Senator Marty can attest to that. Very pure on this. But this is the perfect place where this money should come out of for the business owners that believed and invested in a project that unfortunately did not work. And unfortunately, too, I have not heard one good excuse from the commissioner or from apparently the House in this negotiated deal why they will not make the Benson biomass whole, and why it can come out of the $58 million that is still remaining in this fund. So members, I do stand in strong support of this. I believe there's some good projects in Senator Osmick's bill, but this one should have had the support from all the commissioner, the House, and the Senate, because obviously we did make a mistake.
Next on the list, Senator Westrom, do you want to speak to the amendment or, okay, Senator Westrom followed by Senator Pratt.
Mr. President, I would also rise in support of this amendment. Members, certainly there's angst about how to use the Renewable Development Account, formerly the Renewable Development Fund. But going down a little memory lane or history lane, the name Renewable Development Fund should encapsulate it all. When we passed the Prairie Island Bill in 2003, the Prairie Island Second Bill, that's where the Renewable Development Fund gets its money from. The first bill was passed in 1994, later changed from RDF to RDA. But members, the whole premise of that bill, the RDF fund, the development and research for new renewable energies, was part of the effort that this legislature has passed 2 different times. In exchange for having to find another place to store nuclear waste out of the state, this was the deal and the compromise, and a lot of hard negotiations, hard feelings went into these bills. The idea was, let's also find ways to develop competitive new renewable energies. Fast forward, somewhere around 2001, 2, 3, the legislature had to change the 50 megawatts of baseload biomass. So a new plant from England that we had in front of our Ag Committee in the House of Representatives at that time talked about burning turkey litter. Seemed kind of a foreign concept. Well, it was a foreign concept because we had them come in from England to tell us about it, something they had done over there. Long story short, the legislature, after a year or 2 of looking at this, modified the contract with Xcel, allowing this turkey litter to be part of the source of the 50 megawatts of baseload energy from a biomass product. I was at the ribbon cutting, the groundbreaking, and the ribbon cutting ceremony of the new plant in Benson, just outside of my Senate district, just south of where I live. A lot of optimism, a lot of great hope. But as some research goes, members, things don't work out. This didn't work out 20 years later. It's unfortunate that they had to mothball a brand new plant that was built here in Minnesota. But in that pathway, there was a lot of hurt people and businesses. But members, don't get doom and gloom over this. There's no way to find progress if you aren't willing to find some failures and learn from it. hence the name Renewable Development Fund. Developing and researching renewable energies is not going to always be 100% gain, just like it isn't in any energy they research. Developing nuclear energy years ago wasn't 100% gain. But you get to where your progress is by learning from your failures. But part of the failure is also paying for the research and the cost construed around it. The cost that many involved in this research ended up losing money over. And we just want to make them whole. Senator Lang has worked very hard for this, had this passed but for Governor Dayton vetoing it for the good folks of Swift County. But many of them even live in Stearns County and up in Itasca County, and where they've been providing some of the wood pulp for the litter. And so, members, this is one of those eggs. But when you're doing research and development, you better have the stomach to have some eggs and then stand behind it, because you aren't going to get research and renewable development if you think it's all going to work out perfect, because it's not, and that's what research is about. And so, members, I would urge your support, Senator Lang, that we get it on here, or if not here, we find another pathway to help these projects. And that's part of the whole spirit of the Renewable Development Fund. And so I think it's very appropriate that we fix and move on from this research and learn from it and continue developing new and exciting energies across the state of Minnesota, which is what this fund can do. And so, members, I would urge your support.
Next on the list, I have Senator Pratt, followed by Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Lang, I appreciate the amendment. I support the concept of the amendment, and Senator Westrom just talked about it. This is the Renewable Development Account. We're going to take chances. We're going to expand. We're going to attract new projects to the state. And when this legislature passes a law that says we're going to do this and then backs out of it because we recognize that the project is a failure, the RDA should, in fact, cover the wind-down cost of that and the impact that it's had, because people have staked their livelihood on the very laws that we pass. Senator Lang, I appreciate this very much. You deserve to be made whole by the Renewable Development Account, but there are too many good projects in the current bill that I can't let go. And so, Senator Lang, you have my moral support, but members, I urge a no vote on the amendment.
Further discussion on the A3 amendment, Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in support of Senator Lang's A3 amendment. I spent a lot of time around Senator Lang, and he has worked tirelessly on this project for his district, for Benson, for everything involved with this. Hours and hours of time he's worked on this bill. He has worked day in and day out of the time he's spent at the Senate since he's been here, 3 years as we've been here, going on our 4th year. This is a huge thing for his district, and he's worked and worked and worked to help the small businesses that have been affected by this closure. I stand in support, and I'll be in favor of the A3 amendment.
Members, is there any further discussion on the A3 amendment? Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know this isn't easy. I know it's not my style to legislate this way. Everybody's been watching me run around the retiring room, lighting fires in the Senate chambers. That is not the way I want to do this. What I'm asking, and this is going to come from the Democrat side, I don't know if I said that right, Senator Dibble, but the Democratic side, I'm not sure which one is which, but I need some votes from Democrats on this one. I need you all to look at this situation, look at what we did, and I think that we're right. I think that over the course of time, when we have a project like this that we think may work, we do it. And if it doesn't work, we compensate the people that we hurt along the way. That is what I would call doing the right thing. What I'm asking for you all to do is think about this and do the right thing. I was 15 years old when this plant started. 15. If you'd have told me 15-year-old Andrew Lang that he had to defend something for 4 years when he was 40 years old, I wouldn't have believed you. Because I would have said, you know what, the legislature is smarter than that. The legislature is good enough to know when they did something wrong. When they made a right decision, hurt people along the way. That plant was a waste of money. And now we know that. That's why we need this $40 million to go to these businesses and help them out. So with that, Mr. President, I would ask for a roll call vote.
The roll call has been requested. A roll call will be granted. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Senator Osmek.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move for recess to the call of the President. Republicans will caucus in Senate or in the Senate building in Senate Room 1200, as well as on Zoom.
Senator Osmek moves that the Senate recess to the call of the President. Senator Hayden?
Good. Well, thank you, Mr. President. Will Senator Osmek yield for a question?
Senator Osmek will yield. Senator Hayden?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Senator Osmek, it looked like this was kind of an abrupt recess, so I'm just trying to get some sense of how long you guys think you'll be caucusing and just to tell my team when they should expect to come back.
Senator Osmek will yield. Senator Osmek.
Senator Hayden, I'm not sure how long this is going to take. We're in a very unfortunate situation. I would anticipate it probably will take a half an hour maybe. We will inform the minority as soon as we have a timeline. I don't think it'll be more than an hour, but I would hate to venture a timeline. We have some issues to discuss.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Pappas.
Mr. President, I'm just not remembering. Don't you need to do something with this bill? We're in the middle of an amendment. Do you need to lay it over or something? I didn't know. I've never seen us recess in the middle of debating an amendment.
Senator Osmek.
Mr. President, I'll remove my motion to recess. I will move to lay Senate House File 1842 on the table.
Senator Osmek moves to lay House File 1842 on the table. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Good. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Senator Osmek.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we recess to the call of the President.
Senator Osmek moves that we recess to the call of the President. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. We will take a brief pause. The motion prevails. The Senate is in recess.